And we're live. Hi, everyone. I'm speaking with Gabrielle Clark. Um, hey, sorry, we just talked about this before. Hey, Gabs, how are you doing?
I'm okay. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing good, thanks. Well, thank you for coming on. And I've got you on because you faced an issue at your son's school, and now you've taken legal action against the school. So, if you wouldn't mind telling people what had happened and how it started, and how this whole thing came about.
Well, first, thank you for having me. I appreciate that. Well, first, my son and my daughter were going to democracy prep at the beginning of the school year. And I started noticing some things that were a little suspect in my daughter's class, some things that I wasn't super excited about. And should I say a boot? Y'all say a boot, right? No, I won't say a boot. Yeah, okay. I'm sorry.
No worries.
Yeah, there was some things that I wasn't super excited about when I saw what was happening in her class. There were a lot of social justice things happening, and so I started listening to more and more, making her turn the volume take her, because she was wearing headphones most of the time. I would make her take her headphones off so I could hear what was going on, the instruction. And it just became more and more concerning, and it was concerning in lots of different areas. It wasn't just, the social justice stuff. It was lots of different areas, and I wanted to know how how serious it was. So I started listening to all of her instructional classes. And then I heard something that was just, it was just too much. And I told her to leave that class. I found her a new school that day, and she didn't go back. And so I went into my son, who is a senior. My daughter is in the 7th grade, and my son, who is a senior, and I went to him and I asked him, what is going on in your classes? And I asked him, has there been anything that you were concerned about, or anything that you thought was you know, distasteful in your classes, and or stuff like that. And he told me what was going on, and I saw what was on the screen when I walked into his study area, and I was shocked. I was shocked at some of the things, and and then I told him, I said, let me see everything in this class. Let me see everything in this class. And when I saw all of the course material in the class up to that point, I could not believe what I was seeing. It was very shocking. The assignments, everybody's seen that meme that has SpongeBob, reverse racism doesn't
Mhm.
exist, or reverse racism is a myth. I don't know what it
Yeah.
said. And it was just really and truly unbelievable.
Can I ask you a question? Like, because I'd like to get into what some of those things were specifically, if you can. But um, when you look at like the curriculum, so your kids come home first day of school, it's like, okay, social studies, we're going to be learning about anti-racism. Like, was it kind of just vague like that? And then when you go into the actual stuff that it teaches, that's when you find out exactly what it was, or were they kind of explicit? Like, because I'm just trying to wonder, because right now, like, parents are insanely busy. Like, everyone's busy, and parents are getting in trouble because they're letting their kids go to the parks. I'm just wondering how much time the parents actually had to look at the curriculum. So if you just look at, here's what we're doing this semester, right? We're going to talk about anti-racism. We're going to talk about, fighting homophobia, like just very general. And you have to actually look at the curriculum. Like, was it like that?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It was exactly like that. I mean, you know, who doesn't want to fight racism? You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, everybody does. Everybody wants to fight racism. Nobody wants to have racism in the world, you know? I mean, that
Yeah.
seems like it seems like a very benign thing,
Mhm.
an important thing that needs to be done. So of course, but I mean, I had had plenty of um concerns prior to. Um,
Okay.
everybody was horrified at what happened with George Floyd.
Yeah.
Um, all of the other instances of video and dash cams and
Mhm.
all of that, it just didn't compare to what was going on with George Floyd. And no matter what you think, if how
Yeah.
you believe, if you think it was he died of a heart attack because he overdosed, whatever the situation, seeing him being held down like that, with the knee on his, you know what I mean, with the knee
Yeah.
on his neck, with the knee on his back, all of that stuff. It was horrifying, right? Nobody should die like that.
No.
Even if it was inevitable that he was going to die, it shouldn't have been that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think I don't know anyone who disputes that at all.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
Even if you, like, that's what I'm saying. Even if you believe that he was going to have a heart attack and die anyway,
Mhm.
it shouldn't have been with somebody's knee on his neck. You know what I mean? Or people holding him down and all that whole business. That was unbelievable. But the idea that, you know, that police officers just go around murdering people all willy-nilly is also wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just wrong.
Mhm.
And so, I I had voiced some concerns about it to the school um prior to this, the situation um that ended up being the kind of straw that broke the camel's back.
Okay.
And and I was met with um kind of like a non-answer, and really just a brush off. So, parents do need to go into their kids' classrooms and dig into that curriculum and look and see exactly what they're learning. Because I never would have believed that this was happening until I saw it with my own eyes.
So, can you give a couple of like examples of what you saw exactly, or can you get into
Well,
that?
we have we do have all everything in the pleadings, and we're working on a new website right now, so it's not up right at the moment.
Okay.
We're working on all of that right now, so it's kind of in transition, but you can see all of the all of the slides and all of the curriculum that we had an issue with, and that it's all available. It'll be all available on our website very soon.
All right.
um and I think Colin Wright on Twitter has, I think he's done stories on it, and several different stories on it, and you can see hit you know
Yeah.
word for word. I think he even has like threads on Thread app and all that kind of stuff where you can see that stuff.
Yeah. But yeah, I've seen following Colin stuff on that. No, but it's because I'm looking at. I've been following some of this stuff for a while, and
Mhm.
okay, I'm not like some of the stuff that I've seen in New York City, and going back to 2010, it was in some high schools. Uh, starting around 2017, 2018, it started getting into K through 12.
Mhm.
And I mean, I've seen the guy's no longer there, but I think I'm not sure if he went to Nevada or California, but the guy was the chairman of the Department of Education for New York City. I mean, there's a meeting where he's telling teachers that when non-white kids come in late, that might be a cultural thing, so don't penalize them and stuff
Right,
like that. And I'm like, okay, I'm brown. You
right.
know, if
I
I
still
came
have
home,
a clock.
yeah, exactly. But if I came home with a note or something, or if my school called my parents and said I was late, or like you know, or I missed class, or my dad would like, my dad would freak out. Like it's just
And I mean, I do get some of the, like I was saying before, when I think we were talking, I was talking
mm,
to Carlin and Jody.
Mhm.
Um, it starts out very innocent. I mean, just innocently enough, with the girl talking about how she could go to the store and buy a band-aid and it matches her skin color, but a person of color can't do that. And that is an example of, of a privilege that she has, right? Okay. That's that's okay.
Mm.
You get that. Just like with that, I his the sentiment was that if a kid in the hood
Mm.
is late for school, he might have had to fight a bully on the way. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Or escape a gang on the way. You know what I'm saying? That kind
Yeah.
of thing. But to kind of turn it into, well, we all on CP time. No.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Well, okay, but okay, and I get that as well, right? You know, if you're in India and or even like I'm in Montreal and family friends or whatever, yeah, we'll be there. But this goes back just for everyone. Oh, we'll be there by 7. They show up at 8. It's like, um, in India, it's a little bit further. Like some guy's gonna, here will come by between 8 a.m. and 12 to fix your cable. There, they'll say they'll come by on Saturday in the morning. They come by on Sunday in the evening. But if it's going to school, getting on a flight, going to like a business meeting or things like that, like that is like very punctual, very strict, and there's all kinds of reasons. Like it could be traffic, and I get that. So I understand case by case. Kid comes
Right.
in late, and they're worried, they're freaking out, whatever. Okay, if they can kind of explain that to the teacher. The teacher can maybe see from how they're acting that it's not,
Exactly.
there's something extraneous. But if it's just someone waltzing in late,
Yeah, then
every
no, you
day,
don't
yeah,
get you
yeah,
don't get a pass for that just because your skin is brown.
yeah.
But see, it's like it's just infantilizing, you know, um people of color. You know what I mean? And it's just like that is completely asinine. Just like they say that I saw what's that guy's name from the Young Turks? What's that dude's name?
Oh, Cenk Uygur or something like that.
Chank Uger.
Yeah,
Or isn't that his name? Chank Uger.
yeah.
I saw him tell Diamond and Silk that sometimes black people can't afford IDs. On what in what unit? If you I don't even know how to respond to that.
Yeah.
You know how many times you know how many black folks I've seen at the check cashing place cashing checks with IDs. They may not have a bank account, but they have an
Uh,
ID to cash that check. You know what I'm saying? Like
but
I've never met a person, even homeless people have IDs. You know what I'm saying? There's all I mean, it was just unbelievable to me that, somebody who is supposed to be liberal and on the side of people of color would actually say out loud to people of color that black folks can't afford IDs. What kind of foolishness is that? That is so horribly insulting. And
yeah,
this is the kind of mentality that comes from critical race theory and comes from this woke nonsense. Is that we need all of these protections because we can't do it ourselves. And that's just nonsense.
okay. I've seen this because I worked up in northern Canada. So, like, I mean, like little remote communities, you had to take a plane to get there. There were no roads or anything. Now, it's all Inuit. And I mean, I can list off all the horrible things that were done. Like, I'm not trying to excuse them or whatever, but it's everything's done for them. Everything's like you're all victims. It's no one else's fault. Like there's a huge alcohol problem up there,
Right.
and you can trace
My
back to
mom's
why
from
it happened.
Alaska.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so you can trace back to why that happened, and you can acknowledge it. But instead of just saying, "Oh well, it's not your fault," at one point or other, it's like, okay, you know what? We're going to help you get dry, or we're going to help you manage it. But it's always about telling them that they're victims, and
Yeah.
everything's done for them.
And
Yeah.
really, I mean, if we seriously want to um if we seriously want to see the results of that kind of thing, then yeah, look at the Inuit, you know what I mean? Look at the Inuit and look at the first peoples,
But I gotta,
in
I
this
got,
land.
I just gotta say one thing about that though. Like, there's a lot of problems up there that are not being addressed because of this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, there are serious problems that need to be fixed,
Right.
but that's my biggest thing with this. Okay, like I have two beefs with all this stuff. One, it's a direct attack on Enlightenment values, civil liberties, that kind of thing. Like it says it straight out. It's opposition to them.
Right.
Two, there is problems with racism. There is problem with police violence. There is problems with, name it. There are problems that need to be fixed. But when you inject this stuff in it, you
It
end up
pollutes it all.
you end up talking about whether or not you can use the word master bedroom.
Right.
When there's actually important shit to be talked about.
Yeah, I said totem pole the other day, and I'm sure everybody was losing it, despite the fact that I'm part Choctaw. But whatever, you know what I mean? Like, it's like this. I mean, and that's why this doesn't work, right? Because my family, in my family, in my immediate family, there's clearly white people and clearly black people in my home, underneath my household, in my household. So how do you interact with one another with this binary thinking? Everything is black or white. And so it's just like my daughter is more accomplished at 13 years old than all four of her brothers combined, and she hasn't even gotten to high school yet. You know what I mean? She just got number one in the number one in at UNLV for the inventors category in her science fair because of the design she created for this thing she invented, right? So it's just like, I mean, she's got a scholarship, a 10-year scholarship to the ballet conservatory. All of these things, I mean, all of these things this is stuff her brothers gate 98 percentile, just all of those things that her brothers never got. But she's a black female in our household. So we're supposed to tell her what? That her white brothers are oppressing her, and there's a no-win situation because she's doing well. The idea behind critical race theory is that she's doing well in spite of being held down. And she probably had to work 10 times as hard, or they just gave it to her just for a token. I mean, all of these things are so wrong. It's just so ridiculous. Hello? Yes. Oh, did it freeze?
Oh, but I mean, okay,
okay.
I froze for a second.
Yeah.
But okay, there was a conference in Toronto in 2020, and it was in summer, and it said brown complicity in white supremacy, and it was with like two people from South Asia and one person from the Middle East, and basically it was saying along the lines of brown people aren't as oppressed as black people. So a white person can hire a brown person, say, see, we're not racist, but not hire black people. And then because brown people are allowing the white people to get away with their racism, they're complicit in white supremacy.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm like, so let's see, my father moved here. My family moved here when I was 6. My dad worked hard, started a business. We were well taken care of and everything. And I went to school. I got a job. So you're saying like, I'm part of white supremacy now? Like, where does it stop? And like the attacks on the Asians right now, you're telling people that Asians are white or white adjacent.
Right.
And all of a sudden it's okay.
Yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah. It's insanity. I mean, and like in No Left Turn in Education, that's I'm the Nevada chapter head for No Left Turn in Education. And I just did a presentation in front of our California chapter, which has it's run by two Asian women, that chapter. And there's a heavy Asian community there, right? There is also here, but not like it is in like the San Francisco area. So, you know, when I listen to some of the messages and things like that we get, it's mortifying. You know what I mean? It's horrifying. Asra Nomani, she is, when I have talked with her about some of the things that's happening at her kids' high school, it's insane. I spoke with Vivek Ramaswamy, and he, same thing. It's just like, and it's happening to, the Asian community as a whole. It doesn't even matter what part of Asia you come from or any of that stuff. So, the idea that this is only happening to rich Asians is ludicrous. It's happening to all Asians, that they're being treated like they're somehow have an advantage over everyone else, all because they, as a community, do well. you know
But just in that, okay, that again, this is where this stuff goes wrong. Okay, if the schools, and I mean, you can look at the statistics; it's not hard to find them. It's
hmm
whatever, like 20% of kids are getting to grade level in math. Like I think by the time people graduate, it's like some people can't even do like grade 8 level math. Now,
right.
so okay, let's get rid of the grading, let's get rid of the stats, get rid of the SAT tests. I'm like, okay, so your solution is to like hide everything underneath the rug. I mean,
Right.
that didn't work when I was a kid because my mom always found it and I had to do it
Right.
again.
That is not going to make us competitive in the world. And it's really, and it's what is even sadder about it is that it's going to squelch innovation um and progress later. These kids are going to grow up, they're not going to know how to do all of the things that we learned,
Mhm.
and then build on that. So where is the Elon Musks of the future going to come from if we're constantly, dumbing down the curriculum and getting rid of ways to gauge intelligence or aptitude, right?
Yeah. Okay, but there's another thing with this. Um, I'd spoken to this gentleman, Ian Rowe, and
Mhm.
recently he put out this article. I don't know if he put it out, but he shared this article about these schools called the Rosenwald schools.
Right.
And it was Booker T. Washington that
hmm
got, this gentleman to finance him. And he said, fine, you want to segregate us? We'll have our own education. We'll have our own excellence.
hmm
And it wasn't this stuff of, okay, we're going to get rid of grading. Like, no, they were rigorous schools and they were
hmm
getting some of the best marks in the country.
Right.
And here's where I agree with someone like Derek Bell. Like I don't really like Derek Bell, and I don't really, I don't like critical race theory. But at the underlying of it, there is some valid points. But then they just go off the rails. Like that's like.
Right.
But
Right.
I mean, Bell said like they shouldn't have desegregated schools. They should have desegregated education, and that makes sense. Like don't bus a kid for an hour. Fix the
Right.
goddamn school he's in. Right. Like that
Right.
makes. Yeah. So, but what happened back then too, like this was a shame of all this stuff, is like it comes in with good intentions. You can't segregate schools, but these Rosenwald schools were black schools. So because of like the Equal Rights Act or whatever, like when they had to desegregate schools, they got shut down because they were black only schools. Instead of saying we'll integrate the schools, which would have been a better idea because they were good schools. So there have been a lot of mistakes done, and let's acknowledge that, but let's not just keep making mistakes because we made some in the past.
Right. And they're trying to throw the baby out with the bathwater. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? It's like, okay, let's keep the good stuff though.
yeah,
Let's keep the good stuff. But the whole idea behind critical race theory is to break the system as it is. It's to break the system as it is. So, you know, it you can't keep the good parts. and you've heard that ridiculous quote, you
Mm.
can't dismantle the master's house with the master's
Oh
tool.
God.
You can dismantle a house with a pencil if you really want to. You know what I mean? So I mean that all of this, a lot of this stuff is just, it's just really asinine. You know what I mean? You can
It's
you can I mean, we have a system that is, that has built civilizations to what they are now. And it is evolving, it's constantly evolving as the world evolves, as people evolve. And so, you evolve with it, and you make new discoveries, and you learn new things, and you try new things. You don't just throw out the entire system because, because there are some, discrepancies, or even if there's a major issue, you fix it. You know what I mean? When my grandparents were young, there was still segregation. There were still real issues, but they worked within it to change it. They worked within it to change it, and I still believe that we can do that. You know.
Can I ask you about like you mentioned, no left turn education?
Mhm.
Now, because I know there's organizations kind of going nationally, like FAIR and parents defending education. You mentioned us for no money, like that's her thing. But what you're doing, that sounds like more like very, very localized grassroots stuff for parents locally. So if you can talk a bit about like how you got involved in that and how maybe other parents can get involved, like if they're worried, they don't know who to turn to, like where they can maybe go to get some help or how they can, stuff
Right.
like that.
Right.
Mhm.
Well, I got involved with No Left Turn in Education when I saw what was going on in my kid's school, and I wasn't getting a remedy from the school or from the chain of command.
Mhm.
Um, what to report problems to. When I wasn't getting any relief, I said, "There's only one thing that I can do. I have to fight this out in the public." And I have to, find a lawyer and file a lawsuit. That's the only way that I'm going to get any relief for my son. And I saw Dr. Fishbine, Dr. Alana Fishbine. Let me tell you something. She is 4'11" of pure power. That lady. She is she is something else. She is a force of nature, that one. And I saw her on Tucker Carlson, and I was like, I need her. I need her. I need that one. I need that lady, because she was saying all of the things that I was thinking, and having similar issues with her own children. And I wanted to talk with her. And I was having a hard time. I was sending out all kinds of emails and DMs and everything to everybody that I could. Dr. Carlin Borisenko responded, and she created a video of the slides and all of the stuff that I
Mhm.
sent her, and I sent it to Dr. Fishbine, and she got back to me immediately when she saw. Now, it is a it is very much like that for anyone who needs help. If you need help, you can go on Facebook, and you can either reach out to a chapter, if there's a chapter in your state, because there's a main Facebook page, and then there are chapters for the states that we have established in. I think it's 26 now. I think that's the latest count. And and you can go to one of those pages, and message the chapter head, and they'll get back to you, and you can get help that way. If you need legal help, if you are just scared of what's happening, if you want to learn how to um run for school board, if you just want a FOIA letter, to a Freedom of Information Act letter. You can do all of those things. You can get all of that help at No Left Turn in Education. It's noleftturn.us is the website, and they're on Facebook, the main page on Facebook, and state chapters for the individual states that where we have established chapters. And
Okay.
seriously, these people are there's a very diverse. I mean, we have people on the left, people on the right, people in the center. It's every race, every religion, even atheists and agnostics. There's no, I mean, it is truly what America is supposed to be like. This, and they have just received their 501c3 status. So it's nonprofit, and you can donate there, and get a tax write-off. I mean, we're making some serious moves. We're making some serious strides to make sure that indoctrination, it stops in our schools and K through 12 schools.
Okay. But like when you just mentioned that, it's not left, it's not right, it's everyone together there. Because I mean, this just goes to show you that this is such a small group of people that are pushing this, and it's it's like finally someone got up and said the emperor's got no clothes, because this stuff is, I mean, it's just so wrong, and it's just
Yeah.
I'm glad more and more people are speaking up, but I don't get how. I mean, just reading some of this stuff, there was just a couple of schools in New York City. One of them was the Fieldstone Academy, and they took kids starting in the 3rd grade, 45 minutes a week. They split them up by race. They sent letters home to the parents and asked them, how do you want your kids defined as what race? So even like biracial kids and everything. Yeah. And for 45 minutes a week, they took the kids apart and they told the white kids that they were the oppressor and they oppressed everyone and how evil they were. And they told all the other kids, so like, the black kids, like, this is how you were oppressed. This is how you were treated badly. And these are the great things that people of your color did. And they did the same thing for like, the Latinos and, Asians and all that. And within a matter of like a few months, the kids started turning racist, and the white kids started like spouting off close to white supremacist stuff. And it's like, well, and I keep scratching my head. I'm like, you are getting kids to focus on race. That's how you're raising them. And I keep harping about this. I go back to like the gangs in the late 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And when you hear about, when you listen to the cops, when you listen to the FBI, it's like gangs went after the kids that were loners. Gangs went after the kids that were, like had nothing to do, had no hope. You're raising a goddamn generation that's got no hope.
Yep.
What do you expect?
You're turning people who were perfect. I mean, who were perfectly normal into disenfranchised and marginalized. You know what I mean? It's like, but I mean, and I really do try to live in the light and try to keep my focus on how to overcome this and how to move forward through this, and trying to touch hearts and minds, because I really do feel like all of those people who have been made to believe that this is the way forward, a lot of them really can be reasoned with and rationalized with, if I mean, the proponents of this stuff, and the people who have been making money off of this, and who have been benefiting from this. Well, yeah, of course they're not gonna be part of that. You know what I mean? But the rest of everybody, the people, you can talk to the people, and you can rationalize with a person, and you can show them how this is wrong. It's a cult, and people can be awakened out of this wokeness. You know what
But
I'm
I mean,
saying?
like that, yeah, but this is what I mean. Like this, I'm not talking about the Ibram Kendis, and those people. I'm talking, like the
Right.
average parent. And
Right.
again, like going back to what I said earlier, like if parents don't have the time, so they think they're doing good, And then, they keep hearing, oh, that's a right wing talking point. That's a right wing talking point. And it's just like, you're demonizing, like, stop demonizing that one side of the country, anyways. And,
Right.
just instead of just saying it's right wing, listen to what they have to say. But that's like, that's what I mean. Like, this stuff it's playing on people's emotions. Like, yeah, I want to be anti-racist. I want to fight racism.
Right.
Like, whatever. I'm against homophobia. I'm against, I'm against misogyny. Like, let's treat everyone equally, and that's what so they're playing on that, and it's if you talk to people and you just kind of explain them like friends, I'm 51, so my friends around my age.
You're 51. Wow, you look great.
Thanks.
I thought you were in your 30s. Okay.
No, 51. Some of my friends, right after the George Floyd thing, they started talking about white privilege and white fragility and stuff. And like, they're my age. And I'm like, you didn't learn this in school.
Yeah.
Like, I know you guys. And so I just read the book. I sent them, like, for white fragility, I sent a couple of them the chapter on white women's tears, or the section on white women's tears.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've read it.
Oh,
Yeah. Trust me, I know, man. I know it's awful, but yeah. So as soon as they read that, they're like, "This is garbage," and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, so you don't have to do that much convincing. Just let them read the stuff for itself,
right?
And it's like, once you show people what it says, like, there are even some proponents of this stuff on Twitter who, when they saw that stuff with math, like, don't grade the kids when they show their work, grade them on how much they want to learn. And there are even like some strong proponents of this stuff. It's like, no, that's not what this is supposed to mean, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And like, I was thinking in my head to, like, because I come from a Muslim background and I speak out against Islam, and, like, I stopped believing in that a long time ago, and I speak out against it. And it reminded me of, like, some of the people who would say, oh, there's nothing wrong with Islam, this and that. They would call out ISIS, or they would call out the Taliban, but they wouldn't, no, that everything else is perfect. That's not really it, right? And that's what these people were doing. I'm like, it's the same thing. Like, look at
it breeds that. I mean, if you can't say that. I mean, and I'm not saying this about anybody's religion. Whatever religion you want to believe in, that's your business. I don't, and I don't have anything against any religion. But at some point you have to distinguish the difference between a belief, right, and tyranny. And where it starts to turn into that cult like behavior, and that sect like behavior, and that hive minded behavior, and it has no real rules other than what we say right now is the rule. You know what I mean? That's when everything just kind of goes out the window, and you have to say, okay, this is wrong. And justifying violence, and justifying dehumanizing people, and you know what I mean? That's never okay. I don't care what religion, I don't care what, nationality, I don't care what your group is. We live in the new millennium. This is not, we live in America. We live in free countries. This is not where it's okay for whole groups of people to be racist to another group of people so that we can fight racism. Nah, that's not that's not how it goes. That's not how it's going to work.
No, but I mean, and that's just it. Like, this stuff, again, it's new, and I always look at it, because as soon as I started seeing it, I'm like, this stuff's a cult. This stuff's a religion. It acted just like a religion. And I'm like, you know what? I'd rather stop the new converts than go after the people who've already converted. Because the people who've already converted, they're going to be harder.
Right.
But I'm like, let's stop the new converts, because there's a lot more of them. Yeah.
But I think that if we all just kind of, each one teach one.
Yep.
And reach out and try to reason and try to rationalize with some of the newbies, or some of the people who are just kind of, because I can tell you seriously, there was a time where I was, following some of that, trends. And because I would say to myself, well, maybe I'm not really being open-minded enough. You know what I mean? And I would kind of be like, okay, I can understand that. I can see this, I can see that. But then when it gets to a place where it's no longer a theoretical thing, and some of these things are being put into practice, and they're being put into practice and turned into someone's nightmare. You know what I mean? Socialism is a great theory in theory, but in practice it makes a mess. Communism, great in theory. Everybody gets to have a good life in that theory, but in practice, that's not how it ends up working out. You know what I mean? I see a model and I'm like, ooh, that outfit looks cute. She's a size 2. I buy that same outfit and put it on, and my hips be like, nah, sis.
No,
you
but
know?
okay, but like I was saying about this stuff in education, right? Like you had No
hmm
Child Left Behind,
hmm
and when I started seeing like what some of this curriculum was, I'm like, this is every child left behind.
Right.
Like
Right.
you're not bringing anyone for like it's yeah, you're all equal now because you all suck.
You're
Like
right.
it's, like
There's so many things wrong with the education system, and I could guarantee you that racism and that sort of thing doesn't even come close to the top of the list on that, as far as education goes. I mean, I'm me and my kids and I, we have had our struggles, and I can tell you that at no time did, my black kids not perform as well as my white kids, um ever. And there was no, I mean, we're looking at a real live experiment of these theories happening in my house, and they do not add up, right? So if it doesn't work in families like mine, where the family, there are some visibly white kids and some visibly black kids, male and female, different ages, and they're all being raised in the same household and have the same struggles and the same issues, then and they don't, and there's not a vastly different outcome for all of them, then you have to say to yourself, okay, then maybe the right this is not the right formula. This is not the right theory. This is not the theory that, makes most sense, because I'm the exception that proves the rule. You know what I mean? You can be white, you can be black, have the same struggles, and still succeed if you want to, And yeah, there's always some times where circumstances, it is tough. But by and large, if you live in a free country and you work hard and you have determination, and you have a little bit of luck, you don't break your back or something like that, then you're probably going to be successful. And if you aren't successful, you're never so unsuccessful that you can't come back. Mike Lindell, drug addict, all of that stuff. Look at him now. You know what I mean?
I'm just curious. Are you also trying to look at stuff like school choice, or are you?
school choice is
Mm,
um school choice is a big deal in this situation, because we've had, I mean, and I feel like this is part and parcel of how we got to this place, because so many people who know better than us, have told us that school choice hurts the black community. Well, no, it doesn't. The majority of the black people and black and brown people, minorities who go to charter schools, excel.
yeah.
That's yeah,
That's
it's not all perfect, but a lot of the times it's a much better system than what they were going to.
no, but if you give them the choice, right?
Hmm.
Like, okay, maybe it's not the best example, but my mom, because like I said, I moved here when I was 6. My mom put me into from kindergarten to grade 6. I went to 8 different schools.
Mm.
This school, I heard this school is really good. We're going to put you there. I heard that's okay. But she had the choice to do it.
Right.
And there were good schools. And once I got to the 6th grade, I went into one school that I went with those kids all the way up through to college. Right. So
Right.
like that there, I got like one kind of like a stability type of thing. But before that, my mom's like, no, this school's better. That school's better. And that's the choice that you should have. And so if schools are, one school's doing better than the other, parents could say, okay, this school needs to leave. And then at that point, the government or some agency could come in and say, okay, what does this school need to fix it?
Right.
Right. Okay. You can
Yes.
look at that way. But, I understand like having a level or something, but it's just this weird stuff of not having a choice. And I don't understand how school choice is not part and parcel of like, the Equal Rights Act or civil rights,
Right.
or like the whole point of desegregation was kids could go to schools and they
Yes.
could go, and like, so, that it seems basic. I mean, and one last with that, like, I don't know if you read Thomas Sowell's book, Charter Schools and Their Enemies, his latest one.
I haven't read that one now.
Okay. It's specifically about this. And he talks about charter schools in the Bronx.
Right.
So in the same building, you got a public district school and you got a charter school.
Right.
And
That happens a lot, actually.
And
I've been to them in Harlem. Yeah.
And they're the same kids, same neighborhood, same families.
Mm-hmm.
And the ones that go to charter schools are like getting the best grades in the country. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, can you at least look at that and say, maybe just copy what they're doing? Keep it a public school, but just copy what they're doing.
Right. Yeah. But see, this is the problem. It's like, it's like trying to fit everybody in each grade level with the same pair of shoes, with the same size, the same color, the same, you know what I mean? And in charter schools, they don't do that. They try to gear the curriculum to best work with each individual student. And I would even go so far, because my daughter is now in a micro school environment. So their goal is to stay small, so that the student teacher ratio is small, so that every single student gets the proper attention that they need, right? Well, before that, my daughter was in the charter school, and the charter school did not know that my daughter has the mind of an inventor. They didn't know that. So when she moved to the micro schooling environment, the science teacher recognized that she was different than the other kids. Now my daughter takes 2 science classes simultaneously. She's the only student in the school that does that. But you when you get into these smaller environments, and when you get into some of the more experimental, or even some of the models that have kind of gotten back to the basics of the way education used to be, then they can focus on the individual student. And I'm excited because states are now starting to pass bills that the money follows the student, not the system, which I think is wonderful.
But I mean, another thing with this is like, it is all about choice, because I'm not saying that the remote thing was good, but for some kids, because like it should be up to the parent, because I'm like, there are some kids where the remote thing was actually helping them,
right?
For whatever reason, they could focus. So if you're a parent and you've got 3 kids and one's doing really well remotely, one's doing well in a public district school, and one's doing well in a charter school, okay, it's a little bit more work for you to get your kids around or whatever. But if the parent has a choice of deciding what's best for their children and what works best, like, you're the parent, like most parents know what's going on with their kids, and like they look at the report cards and whatever. So like, I think that should be like the biggest thing. The parent should have that choice to what is working best for my kids. And I mean, another thing, again, like, when I was graduating high school, when I was in high school, you had choices of going into, and they even, it's not like they said, oh, you're too dumb to go into that. Like, but you could go into, instead of getting a bachelor's and a master's and all that in chemistry, you could take a 3-year chemical engineering course and you get like a really quick job. And
Right.
it's kind of like getting certified
A
in chemical
technical school.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and they're all tech. Or you could do, like going into trades that was right around the time when it was like, oh, trades are bad, college is good, but you
Mhm.
still had people going to trades, and I'm like, mechanic, carpentry, bricklayer.
Right.
I mean, like these are good positions. I mean, you make decent money. I'm not saying
Right.
they're not easy. I'm not saying they're easy. Like it's hard work or whatever. But
Oh, I
yeah,
know. I just finished some drywall work in
oh
my
god, yeah.
bedroom. My God. Like I was
No,
like, oh, I cannot wait until my dad was a contractor, right?
yeah, but
So,
yeah,
I grew up learning how to do all of that stuff. And I'm getting ready to lay some floor here in a couple of days. So, yes, but I, one of the things that I was very passionate about with
mm,
my own children was that, you know, I still believe in some of the Judeo Christian values.
yeah,
And one of those things was to teach my kids a trade, like teach them something so that if they can't do anything else,
mm,
they can do this. If college doesn't work out or if they find
uh,
themselves on hard times, they can do this thing. And
but
so, and that used to be something that was admirable. And since when is having a job doing something that nobody else wants to do, or something that's back-breaking work
mm,
or hard labor? Since when does that make you lesser a person? I'm sorry, but
mm,
you know what? I love one of my friends. I love him to death. But if he had to fix anything himself, it would just stay broken. He wouldn't be
oh
able to
god.
do anything for himself.
Okay,
And he always says, I have to go hire a real man to do the job that, I can't
yeah,
do. That's what he always says. I had to hire a real man. Sometimes I would go over and plunge his toilet because, my God, he didn't know how to do it.
yeah,
You know
but
what I'm
that's just
saying?
it. It's but like also okay, like carpentry or mechanic, or like I say, being a mechanic, or like you're saying like drywall. Okay, t- you need to know how to do basic math to be a carpenter. So like you can teach the skills and apply them to these things. You can, you're
Right.
working on a mechanic. You got to know you got to know the timing. You got to know like whether it's off or on, or whether it's like the degrees. And I mean, like there's things that you need to learn. So it's not like, oh, I'm going to college and you're not. But you can incorporate certain things. And if someone wants, they're taking a trade. If they want to take an English class and read English literature, like who cares? Do it. I mean, that's
Right.
your interest. Like I work in IT, but I like camping and whatever. Those are my interests. Those are the things I do. But like, let's say, I was into woodworking or something like that. Like that'd be my
Right.
hobby. Whereas, I'm a cabinet maker, but I like reading old literature. Like it's the same thing. But
Right. Right. I mean, you can be I think it was Mike Rowe on one of the
yeah,
episodes of Mike Rowe's Dirtiest Job. He was talking to some guy like in a mine or in
yeah,
some shaft where it was just horribly dirty. And they were talking about, I think it was Dante's Inferno, talking
mm,
about the dog,
yeah,
and Mike Rowe's like, how do you know that stuff? Well, just because you're a dirt ball, or just because, you're some gearhead or some grease monkey or whatever, doesn't mean that you can't still be smart.
yeah,
That's,
exactly.
that's not you can still be smart. I don't have any kind of degree, but
Yeah,
I
exactly.
still smart.
No, that's what I mean. Okay, no, but again, it's that condescension.
It is.
Like okay, I've got a degree in political science,
Mhm.
and frankly, an arts degree is not really worth much. Like, no,
Right.
but they're not. It's like,
Mhm.
especially these days, right? Like you
Right.
can go online and you can get the same degree. And luckily in Canada, it's nowhere near as expensive as the States. Like I pay like $1,500 a year for my education, for my university education.
Wow.
So, okay, so yeah, I'm not going to complain, right?
Right.
But so I know it's not like, but if you're paying $50,000 a year and going to Harvard for a political science degree, hey,
Mhm.
you know what? You're not that smart. The guy who
Yeah.
went to like trade
That seems
school.
like a dumb thing to do, right?
Exactly. You know, like
That
for any
seems
kind
like
of
a dumb thing to do.
but you can learn that. There's places online where you can learn that for dirt cheap
Right.
and get just as good. I mean, the thing you get with Harvard, the thing you get with Yale is the connections.
Right.
And I look at what they're teaching there, and it's like, I don't want those people to have the connections because I don't want those people like running things afterwards.
Right. Them smart ass dummies. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
no, no, but I mean, like, you know, because like, I'm not a parent, right? Like, I have nieces and nephews. I look at this, it's like, you know, when I'm an old fart, I want my doctors to be doctors. I don't want to worry about my doctor worrying about not being able to see me because they're not brown. You know, like I don't like that kind of
Right.
shit. But like
We
as a
all red on the inside, baby.
no, but like as a mother, like when you read some of this stuff, it's like, you know, like you're already mentioning your daughter and stuff, but it's like, I mean, that would infuriate me as a parent. Like, you're telling me that because my child is a different color, that they're not as good and they need that special treatment. And I
Right.
mean, you know, you can acknowledge, like, you know, like I had a hard time, and I still like I still write like, you know, my hand's a claw or something. Like I have horrible handwriting, but I needed a lot of work on that.
Right.
You know, like my work and everything was good. I got good marks, but but like, you know, there's nothing wrong with saying that that kid needs help with this or that. You know, like,
Right.
and parents should know that. And
Right.
you know, and like you said, like maybe in a smaller classroom, a teacher can recognize, you know what, you know, so and so was having a little bit of trouble reading. Let's, you know, but
Right.
just you know, like based on the color of their skin, like your kid's lesser than someone else. Like that must just like that would just piss me off.
Right. It is infuriating. It is infuriating. And you know, I mean, having this sort of having this crazy thing happen to my son was awful. And he you know, I mean, it is hard to wrap your mind around, really. I mean,
Mm.
it really is. I mean, and seriously, thank thank the hula hoop and Jesus for counterweight, okay? Because I mean, Helen, you know, she hooked me up. She didn't have to, but she did. And so, you know, Jen and Carrie and Helen, you know, they have been a real lifesaver, because this does mess you up. It does mess up your mind. It is infuriating. It's dehumanizing, and it is paralyzing. It was paralyzing for me as a mother to see this going on with one of my children directly, and then the impact that it was going, you know, that it is having on my other children, and the potential for the harm that it will do to all of them, you know, at some point later on, if this were to continue. So, you know, and it is a lot. It's a lot to process, and it's a lot to deal with. And I think that that's why people like me and Elena Fishbein and all of, you know, the parents at No Left Turn in Education, you know, all of us are saying no. We're saying no to this, because as parents, it is our duty to make sure that our children develop in every way, psychologically, emotionally, mentally, physically, you know, professionally, all of those things, to make sure that we instill all of these values, just like I told Dr. Wu. It is our job to instill these values in our children, and to have someone come and say, no, you need to unlearn that. That's white supremacy. Don't let them do that nonsense. You have to fight back, and you have to hedge against it, and don't be afraid. You know, if you are afraid for a minute, you let yourself be afraid for a few minutes, and then you pull yourself together for your children, and make them the priority, and make this, like Dr. Fishbein says, you always say you would jump in front of a bullet for your kid, this is the bullet. This is the bullet.
Well, you know what? I think that's a really good place to wrap this up because that was like awesome. And I mean, I gotta thank you because, like I said, the first person to stand up to the Emperor's Got No Clothes. You were like pretty much like one of those first people to stand up, and like what you're doing is amazing. Thank you very much. If you want to let people know where they can get a hold of you, where they can get a hold again of No Left Turn, like I've got the link in the description, but I'll put all the stuff in again.
Right. It's noleftturn.us. And on Facebook, No Left Turn in Education. That's the national chapter, and they also have state chapters. And if they do not have a chapter in your state, then get with Dr. Fishbein, send her a message, send her an email, and get one in your state. Help us fight. If you're a lawyer, help us fight. If you are a web designer, help us fight. Any little thing that you can possibly do. If all you can do is donate money, hey, tax deductible, let's do it. Everything you can do, join this fight and help us fight.
All right. Well, again, thanks a lot, and what you're doing is great. And thanks everyone for listening.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Oh, and we're done. Cool.